Hello and welcome to episode 275 of The Crate and Crowbar. It is the 14th of March, 2019. My name is Chris Thurston, and tonight I'm joined by the unblinking Alex Wiltshire.
Hey guys, hi.
And the phone-shuffling Tom Francis.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. Sorry we missed a week. We were all very tired.
Just sleeping.
So we didn't.
In a pile.
But we return now to you in the hour of takes, to basically talk about what we would have been talking about last time anyway, inevitably, Far Cry. But we'll get to that. And before we get to that, we should talk about some news. There's been quite a bit of news, but we're gonna zoom in on the sudden appearance of Dwarf Fortress on Steam.
Yeah.
And other platforms, I think itch as well.
It's weird because, also itch, but it's not out on either of them yet. And its date is listed as time is relative, which is like a fun joke on how long it's taken. But then it's not, like, Dwarf Fortress is not unreleased, and it's never going to be finished. Like they've said, it's just an ongoing thing. There is no release date. So it's weird because the availability field in Steam seems to be sort of talking as if it will be out on Steam when it's done, but that's not obviously the case. Yeah. And in fact, they even advertise that as like, this is an ongoing thing forever.
Well, apparently there's quite a lot of stuff.
So I guess they're just talking about like the differences in the Steam version.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff in this one. There's a tile set. I think the obvious sort of, because the promotional pictures on Steam are all about the graphics. And obviously tile sets have existed in Dwarf Fortress for ages, but apparently there's loads of new sound and compatibility stuff going on.
They've modernized it to the 90s.
Zoomed into Windows 3.1.
Yeah. The style, I really like the style actually. Like it's super, I don't know, it's not, like a trendy style. It's neither pixel art nor is it, sort of super stylized, like very art directed stuff. It feels more like what you did see in the Windows. I remember like a LucasArts. There was like a Star
Wars adventure. Those like little adventure games.
Yeah, it reminds me of Yoda's Tales or something like that.
Right.
I haven't seen it in a million years, so I can't say for sure.
It looks like a game your teachers would forget to remove from the school computer.
Yes.
And it's like the fact that the dwarves obviously are kind of like flicking from grid location to grid. There's no smooth kind of walking between things. It's all.
I wonder if
that is like it'll get me playing it, and I've fired up Dwarf Fortress before, and I've given it a go a couple of times, but I never got anywhere at all. Like,
you can look forward to that all over again.
Yeah, that's very likely. But it's just like the barrier, translating the ASCII characters into things in my head was too much work for me to also get over the hump of also pressing every key on the keyboard and figuring out how the hell the actual mechanics work. And like, it's harsh in every direction all at once. And now, I knew there were tile sets, and I was always kind of thinking, oh yeah, someday I should like hunt down, try and find out what the best one supposedly is, and then download it and check that it works and all this stuff. And developers just coming in and saying, no, this is the one, this is the right one. That solves it for me. It's like, okay, I will play that when it's ready.
Yeah. It's funny that because I've been following Dwarf Fortress a fair bit over the last couple of months. I don't know, nothing, I'd always meant to play it properly. And then a few years ago, when RimWorld first went into early access, I played that and then realized, oh, hang on, this is how Dwarf Fortress is meant to work, isn't it? Like those paradigms of marking places that your autonomous little fellas are going to go out and do stuff in. So sort of this indirect kind of play that it's based on, suddenly actually made sense. So, and I finally got around to actually playing Dwarf Fortress, and I have been for the last couple of months, and I actually found it a lot more friendly than I ever expected it to, actually. But only because RimWorld taught me how to think about it. So that would probably be the best tutorial. Honestly, it's the best tutorial. But I've been sort of following the news around the game, and, all this time, is it every week or is it 2 weeks? there's like an update comes out of the Tarn Williams and Tarn Adams, that's it, yeah. Where
Comes out of him. The update.
You can't help it.
Issues when,
Might as well release it now. It's here.
but like most of his focus right now is on the kind of like the world building aspects where, you know, the sort of the stories that the game develops in the background that often you can only ever see through looking at the history of the world, of which like it's quite difficult to actually see. You can't see it within your game. You've got to go into your save with another tool, or you
inscribed on this coin is the story of a time a cat lost its eyelid because it trod on an earwig or something.
Yeah. And he's into crime at the moment, like sort of like goblin crime and sort of thing going on.
I'm really into that shit.
Necromancer crime. And like, so it's interesting that sort of at the same time, quietly, like this sort of, this push to probably the most populist move it's ever had.
Yeah, I was wondering actually.
It's been happening.
I noticed it's published by Kitfox. Do you know, are they the ones sort of doing it? Are they the ones actually kind of adapting it?
I know that Tanya X Short, who is Kitfox, or is at least the founder, I think. She's been the person bringing together the team that's actually putting together. So I don't think
that kind of made sense to me in that this, the fact that they'd never done, a tile set for it or commissioned a tile set for it didn't seem like they didn't want to, basically. Like they had said something in an interview that gave me the impression that they just weren't interested in going that direction. And so it makes sense that like an outside party came in and said, look, fucking RimWorld is massive on Steam. Prison Architect is fucking massive on Steam, and they're all riffing off what you're doing, and let us just handle it for you. And I can see that being a lot more appealing to them than doing it themselves.
And the people doing the tile set are like massive tile set community members. Like they are the makers of the key tile sets, and Meth in particular is like still putting out, you know, the user made stuff at the moment. Like he's probably the most active person.
Yeah, that's right. I agree with Tom though that like I think the sort of double barrier to entry of Dwarf Fortress of like, if you want it to be easier, here's the additional layer of modding you need to do, which is sort of like, you know, is only easier if you already know how to mod something, or, you know, there's a lot of barriers to entry stuff there just from a basic position that.
You don't have to mod it, like weirdly, like it's about, like, honestly, I think that a lot of that stuff is a bit of a smokescreen. Like, yes, there are some things that kind of make actually quite hardcore aspects of the game easier, like management of jobs and things. But actually, the most important thing for you to do is for anyone new to it, is to understand the paradigms. And that's in RimWorld. Like, and actually a lot of the mod stuff is for the in-depth, complicated forms of play.
I'm just talking about being able to see and control. Right? Like that's you know, being able to pass what's going on relatively easily so that you can get to that point is the thing that's not necessarily. It's just good to have an out of the box solution for that.
Like in the ASCII version, you're moving around like an ASCII. I mean, you're sort of moving a cursor that's on an ASCII grid, right? You're not pointing it smoothly.
You can
mouse movement is different.
You can use my mouse with it and point at stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is it moving the cursor one tile at a time?
No, well, on the mouse, no, but yeah, if you're using keyboard, which is probably actually the easiest way of using it. It is. Like, but I don't know how much easier it can be, because the whole thing about it is that you're in this 3D world. But because it's really hard to see things when it's enclosed in a mountain and it's multiple levels, you know, the ASCII approach is to give you just a slice of the world, and you can move up and down the slices or the layers of the world as a result. Like, it works in Minecraft because it's first person and you're playing the game from a perspective of someone in the world. But this is a management game where you're meant to have omniscient awareness. And I don't know how much easier it can be. Like, there is a big mod that gives you an isometric graphical view of your world. But how do you tell the computer what's bit of the world that you know, oh, actually now I want to see through the wall, like into this bit, but not that bit because that would include this. And it's weird. The very kind of nature of Dwarf Fortress, I think, sort of resists It's something that you just have to kind of throw yourself at to kind of, and then spend time in the world. So you actually get just a mental map of your space and, I know that's above me and therefore I need to zoom the layer up a bit. It's weird.
I think by everything I said, Alex, I definitely will have no idea what Good to know.
But you like seeing little dwarves making coins with cats' faces on them.
I'd love that. I'd love every part of that. But I've always had the same experience with Dwarf Fortress that I've had with games like Crusader Kings, where it's like the entire the arc
happens quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, Crusader Kings is the perfect. That is the exact kind of.
I have no doubt I will hear stories from my friends on this podcast about amazing things that happened to them in Dwarf Fortress and remain probably unable. I don't know, maybe I'm not unable. That's the thing. For me, being able to look at a sprite and go, that's a cat, makes a big difference to how quickly my brain can grasp what's going on versus that's a moving sea. You know what I mean?
It's funny that one of the sort of least readable and accessible visually games led to one of the most visually sumptuous player stories that we published in PCG, which is the Bronze Murdered stuff.
Right.
Beautifully illustrated. Does anyone remember the guy's name?
No, but I know the story you mean.
Yeah, did some wonderful Dwarf Fortress diaries and illustrated them himself. He did some online as well. I think we found him there and then commissioned him to...
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've always been, by the way, by the stories it generates. It's simply that anything that could be done to let me in to the Dwarf Fortress, I would appreciate.
It's a fortress.
But as you say, Alex, perhaps that's impossible.
Oh yeah, we'll just chain you to a computer.
You have
and take
persuaded me.
else off it.
You have persuaded me to play RimWorld sooner.
Yeah, I mean,
at some point.
There's so much. I mean, I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now. Unless you want to make the incredible things that are possible in Dwarf Fortress, the machines and the kind of reactive kind of fortresses and trap systems and, invent ways of getting resources from one place to another and, this incredibly rich stuff, all within this kind of massive world with legends kind of written into the very earth, A lot of this stuff requires a sort of utter dedication to even appreciate, to learn and then appreciate. RimWorld does all of the story stuff, much more immediately. And as much as I like RimWorld, but the more I've played of Dwarf Fortress I've realized just how much RimWorld is Dwarf Fortress. And, you can get the story stuff from it.
Mm. So you're not, what I'm trying to gauge, Alex, is so you're not bothered about this version of it? You'll be plodding along with...
It's not, I don't think it'll make any meaningful changes to what the game already is.
Right.
You can make you can equip the current version with a tile set that looks, pretty much as good, made by the same people.
Right. Yeah.
And it will not be, mechanically it'll be the same game. Because the Adams haven't made anything else, they haven't made a second version of the game. I would assume it'll have some nice sounds, but then,
I know what a cat sounds like.
but it's cool that it's happening, and I'm fascinated to see how well it does.
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting to see. It'd be really interesting to see if it, I saw someone sort of mention that maybe it was you, Alex, making it more visually interesting might be of value to them streamers and YouTubers, and that's often the key for a game like this. Getting, and it'd be strange, sort of like a decade or even more after it was the darling of diary features in a completely different form of games media for them to explode as the streamer game of the moment. But I guess Dwarf Fortress kind of deserves it because it's always just been there, being itself.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that is happening at some point, maybe never.
But you're right, though. It's strange that there isn't a day for it.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as I saw the news, I got the impression it dropped straight away. Surprise, because it was that kind of announcement. So the fact is, this might happen.
Yeah, they're pushing people to wishlist it, which is what we're all doing, us developers, you might have noticed. And so I guess it might be actually like a long way off, and they just, as soon as they had the idea, they're just like, fuck it, Steam page immediately. That's my advice to developers anyway at this point.
Right. Yeah, great.
Yeah, because you had some news, didn't you, Tom?
Oh yeah, there was this game that was announced. It looks really cool. Yeah, we showed the first video of Tactical Breach Wizards 2 days ago, which is something I've been working towards for a long time. I wanted to get it out before GDC for no real reason. Like, there's the potential of showing it before GDC, then press might be interested at GDC, and that has actually happened to some extent. But mostly it was an arbitrary deadline because I wanted to force us to, I wanted to mostly force myself to focus on what it needed to get to the point where we could decide, like, is this the game, or are we going to totally rethink it? Because I'd rethought it a lot of times by that point. And I changed my mind. Even in the last, like, couple of months, it was going from, like, actually, maybe we're not so much working towards making a video and a Steam store page, just making a version of the game that will be a proof of concept. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, then we rethink. And then as we got closer to that, and as the art came in and I started to add sounds and John did animations and stuff, suddenly started to feel really good, and it became like, okay, this is something we can make a video of and put up a Steam store page. The whole thing, like I say, you want to get your Steam store page up as early as possible so people can wishlist it, because wishlists are important. But I didn't want to do that before we were sure of what the game was. And we just hit this point where, like, okay, this format definitely works and we can definitely make a good game out of this. So let's stop fucking around reinventing it over and over again, and we can show this and be fairly confident that it is gonna change a lot, but it's probably not gonna switch to, like, simultaneous execution or real time or not good based or, change genres.
Really nice UI.
Thanks. Is that? I can't tell, because some of the UI is really nice. Like the floor tiles.
Yeah.
John's done like.
Yeah.
That was actually a big. That we had placeholders. Well, actually, we just had like plain colors before that, and him putting those in like really changed the feel of the whole thing.
Because they
so
actually
much more,
they
like,
are a
professional.
grid as well. He's really, but they don't have that sort of.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant.
lines
I'm talking about when you like. When an attack is targeting some tiles and we highlight those tiles, the sort of glowing sprites for that, suddenly, like, it's interface, but it looks good, so you don't mind it being on screen. Usually I hate interface and I'm like trying to get rid of it all, but this is actually kind of looks nice.
Yeah, it's great. Congratulations on the reaction. Seems to have.
Yeah, it's going down well.
And also on having a franchise now.
Oh yeah. This actually, because I was saying to you guys, like, I noticed some other game had a franchise link on their page, and it was kind of, to me, it seemed like a bit of a bullshit franchise. Like, I just kind of it was just like that game and like one other or something. But the banner that they put on your Steam store page is amazing, and theirs is way better than the one I ended up making, but theirs is like a GIF, and it's like action that happens to fit really well on a really wide, short banner. And that's way better than, like, everyone has a developer page, but that's just linked by some shitty little text that no one ever clicks on. And, so I was joking to you, like, man, how do I get one of those? Like, do I have to call my thing a franchise? Because I'm not sure that, like, there's some prices I can never pay. And then I look at the button again, like,
I mean, there are themes. There are definitely shared
You
themes.
identified the theme.
Yeah, I had, for a long time I've been thinking if Tactical Breach Wizards came together and if it did indeed involve throwing people to Windows, and if it, when we finish it, maybe we do, like, all 3 games in a box and call it the Defenestration Trilogy. And so I had that name in the back of my head, and then thought, this franchise thing is really cool. Maybe we just do it now.
Is it? Have you actually specified that it's a trilogy?
It does say that, yeah, in the header.
So you can't make another game.
Yeah, you're screwed after this time. You got to change your thing.
Unless you do
the Douglas Adams
guide.
Thing. Yeah, the increasingly inaccurate names. I'll just, honestly, if I want to make a 4th game, I'll just change it to the series. Like, I don't think that'll cause any problems.
I'm looking forward to the dates that it goes up on your wiki. Presumably you have a wiki page. I should look. Have you got a wiki page, Wikipedia page?
What do you mean the date?
Well, like, there'll be, it'll become like part of your legend, like, Tom Francis is the author of the Defenestration trilogy, which contains, and then the Defenestration trilogy will have its own page, and, like, suddenly that is what you are now.
Yeah. I mean, also, I like the fact that you just,
As opposed to just wanting a banner.
When I said you can't make a fourth game, you didn't say, well, a fourth game wouldn't necessarily involve throwing people through windows. You said, I would just change it to series.
Yeah, naturally.
A defenestration cart. You stuck.
Someone actually, sorry, I can't remember whose idea this was, but someone said if they release more, it'll have to be the Defenestration Cinematic Universe.
You have to get the .com.
Yeah. You could, you might...
It would be a .cool, please. We've got noir.cool, spaceships.cool, and wizards.cool. So.
Defenestration.cool.
Shit.
That is the
Don't release this episode until I've had a chance to register that.
All right. Might go up tonight, so... Windows.not cool.
Oh, please get that. Please get that URL.
I think you need to get Windows not.cool now as well.
I mean, that is probably available. Yeah. Let's face it.
Yeah, Tim Cook's got that one. Oh, good. So, Tom, what have you been playing if you've had time to do playing?
I'm playing one thing we've all been playing, but perhaps before that I'll just mention Far Cry again, because you said I would.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped in it there. But.
Last time I talked about it, I was doing the outposts, and the outposts in this one, Far Cry New Dawn, after you complete them, you can play a harder version of them. And I was saying I just tried like the level 3 and I was finding it kind of a pain in the ass. I kind of made my peace with it now. I've done most of them to level 3, and the issue I was having was like, there's often dogs in the outposts and they can smell that your dog is evil or good or whatever, however you want to pitch that morality. And that means you can't use a dog to auto tag everyone. So tagging is just a much longer, slower process, and the highest level enemies can't be tagged. But then I made a rule for myself that actually I'm not trying to do this undetected. To do level 3, I'm just trying to do it, and preferably do it without setting off alarms. Because one of the things that's weird about their system is if you're going for undetected, you don't have to worry about alarms at all, because they just don't come into it unless you're detected. And now this is making me engage with the alarm system, which I haven't done before. And so I've done like each of the other outposts twice already. But the third time, it's all about getting to all 4 alarms or all 5 alarms and disabling those. And then once they're disabled, it's just like, send in the boar. Because the boar is another pet you have, and one of its perks as you level it up is that it can resurrect itself. So you don't have to revive it. It can revive you if you go down, and you don't have to revive it.
What does it do what does it do to revive you?
Oh,
Snuffle at you.
It's an interesting animation. Yeah, snuffling is a good word for it. It will frequently, often when I die, I'm on fire, and so is everything else. And so you'll see it like run up to me, get to the fire, and then be like, maybe not, and run off again. And you have to like keep holding this button to hold on to life while he goes and like kills everyone in the world, then comes back when the fire is no longer there.
Brings a little kind of watering can. Gets rid of the fire.
Oh my god, that would be adorable. Must admit I laughed out loud at one of their related barks to the boar, which is you'll just send him into, because you can direct your buddies, including the boar, so you can give the boar a specific real space location to go to, and he will go there and deal with everyone. So I'll like put that marker inside a house or something, and then just listen to him goring everybody. And I just heard one of the guards yell, "But I'm a vegetarian!" So yeah, like it's quite fun just to. Taking out the alarms is difficult and a whole new stealth challenge, and also usually I can't use a dog, and the 4 those boss enemies that you can't tag, that means
Hawking is rolling in his grave.
There's more uncertainty.
Ken Hawking isn't dead, Alex.
Unless a grenade has rolled down a hill recently, but we don't know that.
Sorry, Tom, you were saying.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's a new stealth challenge, and so that's kind of fun. And then you get kind of like, it's just cathartic to not have to worry about stealth for a little bit. Just at the end, like once you've done the hard stealth part, like, all right, fuck it, bring in the boar. While they're all focusing on the boar, I snipe them from behind with the bow and arrow. I have a glowing bow and arrow now, it's almost like it's from Tron, which I think is a Blood Dragon tie-in, but I didn't play that. Or I only played the tutorial, which was a parody of how bad tutorials are, and in doing so, it was the worst tutorial I've ever played, and so I never got through it. But yeah, it's fun. And also, I didn't mention the excursions, which I thought, like, I'd heard about this, and it was like they fly you out to some special location. Did I talk about this?
No.
And I thought that was going to be a story thing, because I thought, the reason you'd want a big set piece in some special location is for story reasons. But actually it's the opposite. It's like replayable, semi-randomized missions. And the first one I did was
like an enclosed area.
First one I did was a huge ship, like a battleship in a dock, and you start on land, and then you figure out how you scout it out and figure out how you want to board the ship. There's loads of different ways
how you want to board the ship.
Actually, yeah, you can't. I usually don't have companions with me, but I'm not sure if that's a strict rule or if you can bring them. But the cool thing about it is you're just trying to get to a package, and that's all you got to do. Or once you've got the package, you then got to escape. But the cool thing about that is it's this big, complex level, and you don't have to take everyone out. It's not a linear design thing where you're going to be sent past every enemy. And so you have this weird and really fun thing of like just skipping most of the level. If you can see a way to get to the package and not do like 80% of the level, you just do that. And that feels great. And you don't get to do it at outposts.
Do you not feel the guilt though?
Well, it's replayable. So you like the outposts, after you do difficulty 1, difficulty 2 is unlocked, and then you go back and the package will be in a different location, and the extraction point will be in a different location.
Fair enough, yeah.
And also just for a change, it's really nice just to focus on the actual objective. That's kind of a rare thing in games. You rarely actually get to, it's rarely literally true that if you can just do the objective and get out, then the game will let you and reward you.
It's quite an MMO-ish thing, if I remember right. Like MMOs often had a kind of slightly wonky, you know what I mean? Like you might have the thing you have to scan or pick up or whatever in the center of the camp, but if other players have just blitzed through and killed everything, then sometimes you just walk up.
Yeah. And this being a good stealth game, it's fun to figure out ways to do that. And one of them is a huge bridge, actually 2 really wide bridges that like people are living on. There's kind of like a shanty town on the bridge, and you're trying to get across the bridge to where the package is on the other side. And that's really like visually striking level and very cool to play, because you can either go on top of the bridge or in like the scaffolding of the bridge, or you can get underneath it and then grapple onto the underside of the bridge and then do like Tarzan swings between the bridges, where you swing on your grapple and you let go of your grapple and throw it at the next bridge to swing across. And I had an idea about that on my second time through decided to try. And it took me a lot of attempts, but I did get it to work, which is from the side that you start on, you just find the highest point and jump off and then wingsuit and fly under the bridges. And then while you're flying under, you have to turn off your wingsuit because the grapple control doesn't work while you have the wingsuit out. So you have to like in midair, put your wingsuit away, then look at the grapple point while you're close enough to it and then throw the rope. And it takes like a second to throw the rope as well. So there's a moment of like, oh, did it work? Yes. And then swing from underneath.
This is on a controller.
Yeah. Yeah, probably could have made it easier for myself if I used the mouse.
Yeah, sounds right though. I actually almost went to pick up Primal because I feel like I've fallen behind on Far Cry games that Tom raves about. I need to find that for some reason it's £4 more expensive than New Dawn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is real weird. So I just backed out the whole thing and thought, I'll wait for a Steam sale, basically.
It is at least £4 better, but.
But it's like still 44 quid or something, which is really.
44 quid?
Yeah.
Christ.
I'm sure in the next Steam sale.
Yeah, it was a weird one.
I guess they're both the same kind of, semi-expansion sort of.
Yeah, exactly. I assume they're sort of equivalent to each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a new Far Cry game made within the map of the last one kind of thing.
There was also a headline about New Dawn sold something like a third of Primal's physical sales in its first weekend. But then with those stories, I never know, like, well, how much did physical sales in general decline since then? Because surely they're...
And what else was out that weekend?
Yeah, those headlines are just... There's been a number. The number has...
Number alert. Michael
real
Pachter
meaning.
Summoned to the Vatican following a further number alert.
To say something already provably untrue.
It's a letter. Alex, you've been playing the game that I keep accidentally calling Hyperlight Drifter, but don't do that to you.
Yeah, I've been calling it Hypnospace Cowboy, but it's actually Hypnospace Outlaw, which is cool, which is nice.
This is like
do you know about it, you two?
Is it like a fictional retro internet?
Yeah, it's set in 1999, like specifically, but it's like this sort of AOL kind of, that kind of walled garden kind of style portal sort of internet style.
Internet what comes on a CD.
Yeah, but you're kind of, but it's one in which GeoCities sits within this kind of this portal. And, you are, well, you're kind of meant to be working for a like the equivalent of Microsoft, like the company, AOL, Microsoft sort of company.
Windows not cool.
Yeah. No, not cool. And, you are meant to be policing, stopping or identifying bad stuff on the internet. But it's all presented in this kind of, vaporware, like, well, actually not vaporwave. It's like pastels, kind of 1990s sort of AOL zine style kind of, but pixelated. So it's all kind of, it's really cool style. Like GIFs are fucking everywhere. There are loads of fonts and colors going on. Like
back when the internet looked good.
If it ran on HTML, they were using the Blink HTML thing all the time. And like, it's the internet that I grew up with, or at least sort of started with. And it's been really nice to kind of see this sort of parody of it. And like, it is really pitched really well at being nostalgic and also sort of getting the pitch and the feel of it right. So there are all these different sort of, as you browse. So you basically are given a task to do. So the first task is to find, you're told that people are using a particular graphic of a cartoon character fish, which is copyrighted on their pages. And you've got to identify it, by putting this kind of sort of hammer icon over the top of it and report it
to ban it.
And you've got to find 3 of them. And then when you report it, it disappears off there and it has like a image not found or cross. It's really nice. So you're reporting content basically. That's on, IP infringement, but there's also harassment and some other sort of brackets of it. But what that means is effectively you're surfing, like you simply surf this enormous internet that's been made for the game. Sort of just going between pages between people. And, there are all these sort of emergent stories that come out of that because there are these different communities that live in there. There's a sort of teen area of kind of school kids kind of being edgy or earnest or kind of a bit creepy or kind of, and then ones where people have sort of set up a page and they don't know how to put anything on it. And so it just sort of has nothing on there and all the links are broken. And you're just surfing and surfing and surfing. And also, oh shit, I better look for the fish as well. And
like an under construction JPEG.
Yeah, loads of under constructive GIFs. Yeah. They're really nice. And there are these characters that emerge. Like there's, a Chowder Man who's this kind of, he was big or semi-big in the 80s as a rocker. And it plays his music in the background. There's most pet web pages have MIDI playing, like proper, like, do you remember Canyon on Windows? Like that kind of MIDI. Like it's so good. It's just like, my God, it's coming home. But then some of them are really, really scratchily kind of, encoded kind of, sampled music, like, full, sort of WAVs or whatever it would be. And Chowder Man has that on his page. And it sort of shows his history. And he's a very deeply sad man. And like he has a sort of a section where he addresses, reader comments where they're all sort of saying that he's washed up and actually no. And didn't you have to sell the Chowder Copter? No, I didn't actually, blah, blah, blah. It's like sort of defensive and sort of like revealing more about himself as a result. And like, it's just full of these little characters, sort of from all walks of life. It's interesting as well because for me personally, because at the moment I'm writing, a book about the sort of old sort of 80s, computer systems, like, the Merlin Tonto and the Super Brain.
These sound made up, to be honest.
And the Thomson MO5. They're all real computers. And sort of Googling around these computers, like, brings you into this kind of world of computer enthusiasts of those kind of computers. And like, they do not style text and it's all just sort of pure HTML and pictures and like slightly mad lists of links and kind of very questionable sort of facts. And like it is delightful to see sort of naked enthusiasm kind of come through, or like where the mannerisms of today, where people are quite savvy about what they reveal about themselves through how they, what they put on the internet. Like that isn't there in the pages I'm looking at for the book, but it's also not there in Hypnospace Outlaw. And it's been really fun to sort of remember that they realize that there is bits of the internet that's still like that are still live. I
had my home address on my website for like 3 years. Not accidentally. I was literally just put it on there. You'd find me, here I am.
Good Lord. Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a simpler time.
The game itself is, I think that I've maybe played it for 2 hours now, and I'm on maybe the third or fourth, or maybe the fourth exercise I have to do. And I cannot find any of the example of the thing that I got to find. But that's okay. I'm having fun sort of browsing, but in some places, like I was asked to find some harassment cases, and and it's done on a light. The harassment here is not kind of overblown.
I was going to ask you, like, how sort of sensitively.
In this case, it's like this sort of this very very edgy teen who's sort of like saying nasty things about people because he just wants to be seen as edgy, and he does comics of kind of, it's like, like this guy's fat and it's like, it's that kind of harassment. It's not kind of haunting harassment.
Not the horrors that would follow Web 2.0.
No. Well, maybe that's what happens later on. But I just sort of, that could be harassment, and like, no, it's not harassment. And so it has that sort of, you've been asked to find something and it's a bit fuzzy as to what exactly it's looking for. And then also you're kind of finding needles in haystacks, which is sort of fun for now because there's so much to look at, which is rewarding of its own, of its own back. But whether that will be sustained over time, and, is there much more to find? Like, how much more internet will open up over time? But I understand.
Those are the questions we were asking in 1999.
One of the things I understand is that like your role, like obviously you as this sort of, this content police person, your relationship with this company becomes, it's fairly obvious that it's all a bit dodgy because you're getting rewarded in coins for this. So, which is actually an element of it which doesn't really ring with me. So like, as you identify each thing, like little coins shower down and you get rewarded for it.
Yeah.
Which is a very modern thing.
Yeah. Bitcoin wouldn't be invented for another.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, and then just, sort of gamification stuff, which, it was like everything is quite pin sharp, and that is just not of that time. Yeah.
I remember is it gone, Tom?
It feels a lot like a Papers, Please type setup where you have a sort of menial job, but there's more going on.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And with this, its very medium is really good at telling stories, the ones that I've been talking about already, but I'm sure, so for instance, at the top of each page, there's like, my thoughts, like a little bit, like a line where some of you, like a live journal style, thing. And I reported 2 things of this edgy teen, and like, by the time of the third one, he'd written, who's reporting my stuff? Get away from me, and so like, there's loads of opportunities to kind of make your existence in this internet world, sort of quite reactive and sort of react to you. And that's
coincidentally was remembering today that there's I don't know if it's still going, but there's a site called H2G2, which is it's an attempt to make the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as a real website, like not the book, but the thing within the book that the book is named after.
The book in the book.
Which was basically Wikipedia. It was this, it was made by it was more like Encarta, I guess, because it was like made by a specific organization, not everyone. But, it was very prescient in a lot of ways. And so then once Wikipedia did exist, I don't know who exactly, like somebody who owns the rights to the Hitchhiker's books, set up a website which was community driven where, you could, I think you had to sort of sign up and become a contributor, and then you would publish things a lot like Wikipedia, but with like a more humorous bent. And I signed up, and I can't remember what I wrote, but my first thing was kind of like silly. It wasn't like a strictly useful factual piece. and it got removed, and I was told by a moderator that you have to earn your bullshit on H2G2. You've got to do a bunch of like factual correct stuff before you're allowed to do silly dumb stuff.
Was that the phrase? I really
fuck you guys, I'm leaving forever.
I already did earn my bullshit. I was going to say also
I was the edgy teen writing at the top of it. Look, who is removing my posts from H2G2?
This is all happening on a kind of made up computer as well. So you've got a desktop and you're kind of going into the browser to do this, but then you've got like these little games and you can change the wallpaper and you can have these there's a program that kind of does a soundscape in the background and you can buy the spooky kind of, theme that makes all these kind of ooh sounds as you're kind of, you're playing the game, and like all these, and the, color themes, like it's so good.
Do you get any desktop characters?
There are desktop pets that can kind of do stuff. There's this animated skull that kind of floats around and gives help sometimes. And just the tutorial is this video, which is straight out of CD-ROM times, sort of, welcome to whatever the company's name is. And occasionally, because they've got the facts changed or something, suddenly the voice changes to a man who's really not very good at presenting on a very bad microphone. It's just so, it's just funny. I've laughed a lot.
Wait, why is it called Hypnospace Outlaw if you're like an enforcer?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that will come clear. I get the feeling it's a name that they thought was cool, like the start of the project.
Well, I wouldn't know anything about that, so that's
So yeah, good. It's good.
I'm glad.
What you play?
Me? I play Devil May Cry 5. Devil is Cry. That's the game we're about to talk about. I've been playing Devil May Cry 5. I appreciate Tom Senior spoke about it when he played it at a preview stage, I think. Tom's played loads of it now, reviewed it for PC Gamer, and I think my take on it has benefited a bit from talking to him about it earlier in the week when he came over to do Minis Monthly. So I'm saying that just so that the quality of these takes, the credit and maybe even the blame can be split. Because I've had a bit of a weird time with it. I think it's getting great scores across the board, and I think it's certainly true that Capcom are having a really good run at the moment. With Resi and Monster Hunter last year and things. There's a lot of these big series kind of making these sort of, I would say that one thing that they're very different games, obviously, but something that Monster Hunter Ultimate and Monster Hunter World, and Resi 2 reboot have in common, or remake have in common, is they're both really successful at taking pretty well in Resident Evil's case, it's definitely a kind of classic game or a classic formula. In Monster Hunter, more like a kind of it's not old enough to qualify as classic, but certainly sort of niche, sort of very particular game, and find a way of just putting it in front of loads of people and kind of making it something you can appreciate without maybe requiring any prior knowledge. And so I think simply because of that precedent, not because of anything Devil May Cry 5 promised, I kind of went to it looking for that as well, just simply because of Capcom's recent run. And it is resolutely, I think, not that at all. And that's kind of an interesting experience because I've actually, a decent memory of 3, 4 DMC to the extent that it counts, and now this. So I'm sort of really familiar with it. And even then I've been taken aback by, I think how much it holds you at arm's length if you are not a mega fan. And so, I want to qualify this by actually, before I get into that stuff, because I appreciate that that's going to sound pretty negative. I think it's a phenomenal action game. And the point of a Devil May Cry game at the end of the day is to be put in an arena with a bunch of enemies with interesting behavior patterns, and then be given a bunch of cool tools, with which to dispatch them in a stylish way. Actually, I was thinking about it, and I've been playing it a bunch this week, and I played it immediately after watching your Tactical Breach Wizards thing, Tom, and it just got me in my head that I think there's a universe where you like these games because, but the difference is you would want to be able to pause. Right? It's the same thing of having this tool set and this vastly in any game like this, Bayonetta, things like that. The thing that separates them from another third person character action game like a God of War or something like that is there is a legitimate sort of sandbox, I don't know what the word we call it, legitimacy almost. Everything can interact with everything else, and it rewards you for chaining things in unexpected directions. So You know, I know Tom talked about it when he was on the pod, but like obviously you've got 3 playable characters in this and they're all really meaningfully different. And, as you learn to, and initially obviously there's this sort of the daunting complexity of mastering movesets and things, but enough of the controls are consistent character to character that you eventually learn the kinds of things that are possible. And then it consistently rewards you for, experimenting. So, you know, Dante, who's the main character of Devil May Cry, but the third character that you get access to, has sort of just a shitload of weapons. Like it's, you know, the thing that I would say they've done with this this is, Tom pointed this out to me and then I got deeper into the game and it's really true, is just the amount of stuff. Like it feels like the first thing they made was the combat sandbox, and that amounts for like most of the game's development is just what happens in a white box where you are fighting some demons and there's lots of different kinds of demons and you've just got so many weapons and they do totally different things. So, you know, you might have a sword with a dash attack that can, you know, that you can be used for covering distance, and covering distance interacts with the game in loads of different ways because it has this fundamental relationship to enemy patterns and which way enemies are facing and all of this stuff. And then, you know, for Dante alone, it would be uppercuts with a punch weapon and then switching that out in midair for a weapon that is 2 halves of a motorbike that you then mash with people with, and then switch that into the sword for a combo, and then you switch fighting style on the other one, so you're in the gunslinger style, which allows you to do a 360-degree shotgun blast thing that knocks people back in a particular way. And the way you play this game, I think if you are very good at Devil May Cry, I've never been amazing at it, is you play it through once, and then you just, you know, hone it and hone it and hone it and hone it. And they haven't yet released the kind of endless time trial stuff that Devil May Cry traditionally gets, but that's its end game and that's kind of its destiny. And that stuff, like, it's genuinely great.
What are the time trials?
It's called Bloody Palace. I'm sorry, I meant, did I say time trial? I meant like, score attack, arena sort of, you know, like just fight in an arena. More like the Arkham.
Yeah, that's how I played the Arkham games, basically. It was just those over and over again.
So, and not that like the, you know, maybe, well, I'll try and feed this game into the Tom Francis barometer, because I feel like I could sell it to you. If I was to sell it to you, that's how I'd sell it to you, right? Like, it's like the Arkham games, but I feel like the Arkham combat system is more like a rhythm matching game in that you're matching inputs to some extent. There's a correct decision almost all of the time in the Arkham games. Whereas in this, there isn't necessarily a correct decision. It's about how you want to use the palette of options available to you. And those options vary based on different characters, and they are super cool. And sometimes the options are so cool that you want to use them even though maybe they're not optimal, just because it's fun. Like, Nero's whole thing is that he has interchangeable right arms. And before a mission, you pick a brace of arms to bring with you, and each arm,
a collective noun?
I think it's a magazine of arms, and they hang off his belt, and then each arm has is basically determines what the B button or the circle button on the PlayStation Pad does, and so it'll be like an extra attack, and it'll have knockback or a dash or, you know, loads of things. One of them creates a bubble where time is slower, and there's all of this stuff. And then you can overcharge that arm. And then if you ever take damage while you're using an arm, the arm breaks and it gets replaced by the next arm in the sequence. But if you overcharge it, yeah, and then you can charge it and then do like the arm's mega thing, which always breaks it, but it's like a mega attack. So like the dash arm turns into this like laser cannon, and you suddenly go to an over the shoulder cam that is never used at any other time, and you're guiding it almost more like a shooter weapon rather than the kind of traditional auto targeting Devil May Cry thing. It's super cool. Like what
happens when you run out of arms?
He just doesn't have an arm.
Use your left arm, I guess.
Well, I mean, because you also have sword and gun attacks, which so this is not it's like your special weapon. So it's like you go back to using. You also find them around the level for some reason, and so that's like the heart of it, and it really is great. Like, it looks phenomenal. The animation's amazing. It runs really, really, really smoothly and feels really, really crisp. And I really, really like that about it. I think the other layer of these games, however, is presentation more generally. And I realized going into this and I got into these games with Devil May Cry 3 and 4, and then after that came Bayonetta, which I adored, and I still do, and it's still my favorite game of this type. Not because I think it necessarily has a better combat system than DMC5, but because...
Really? They're on the par, are they?
DMC5 may well be better. Like, it is, I mean, it feels like the peak of this craft. You know, because I might be wrong about the exact nature of it, but it feels to me like these games begin with, you know, a box, and you put enemies and the character in the box, and then you just make that perfect.
Yeah.
And then everything else that goes into game design comes secondary. And that's actually probably good practice when it comes to designing a combat system, right? But then you get the presentation layer and the, you know, spectacular over the top action and stuff and big characters, and they're very flamboyant and they're, you know, hyper camp. Like there's and I think the reason I love Bayonetta so much is it just ran with the camp direction, in a, sort of joyously and then furiously in one direction and never stopped going, and it just keeps escalating. Whereas Devil May Cry this made me, I've always thought of it as a strange story necessarily, but DMC5 is bizarrely obtuse, I think.
Does it try to sit in whatever the hell canon?
Yeah,
is
it's very much
over the games,
right? So I mean, I kind of want to spend
that is.
So, well, there is a story, and like there's even a video you can play from the main menu to get like a recap of Devil May Cry 1 through 4. But the problem is that like it's not quite produced well enough that like it's a lot of it's always silhouettes, and you can tell like the art budget for this was like at a certain level, and so it doesn't like. I had played all the games, so it was a helpful reminder, but it's one of those things where it's like more of a useful reminder if you played them when they came out and didn't remember them, rather than if you'd never encountered these characters before, in which case it's just people saying the word Spada over and over and over again, and that's it. Like, and I'm saying this is like the man who can get into any lore. I really don't care for Devil May Cry traditionally that much, and there's a bunch of reasons for it. Like, tonally, there's also a really strange thing with Devil May Cry. Like it's very much what edgy teens, you're talking about edgy teen boys on the internet. It is unapologetically things edgy teen boys want to see. And it actually feels remarkably regressive in that regard now. Like, so, you know, but also it's all done. It's a strange thing, and it's hard to encapsulate how weird it is. It feels very dismissive of the notion that it would tell a story, if that makes sense. Its tongue is sort of in its cheek, but not so much to not make you watch a cutscene every couple of corridors.
Yeah.
and it kind of wants you to kind of, be cooler than it, if you know what I mean. Like it kind of like, it wants you to kind of don't care too much about this. But also, they are lavishly produced cutscenes. So it's this strange kind of not sure how to feel. And I say this is like, I feel like I'm going to attract the eye of the DMC community, which is rapidly, you know, enthusiastic about this stuff. But like, it is kind of bollocks. and I think DMC5 is having fun with how just obtuse you can make it. Because it's told, so there are 3 characters. And everything is told, and the story is told through, with many, many time jumps. And they're extremely specific time jumps. So the game begins with it's like May 15th, 7:02 PM. And then you see a very specific thing that happens, which is actually sort of like the middle of the story, really. It's not the end and then you're going to get back to this point. It's not the beginning. It's like, it is almost an arbitrary point. And you are Nero, and the new character that's introduced is V, and Tom's talked about him before, is the guy who reads from a poetry book.
Is that the hat guy?
He doesn't have a hat, but he reads from a poetry book and has a panther and a bird. It's good.
It's got a lot going for him.
And you encounter basically the entire Devil May Cry supporting cast in this opening, which includes, Devil May Cry's, 2 prominent and fucking awful female lead characters, Trish and Lady.
Oh, they're from previous games.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. This is all of the lore at once, right? Like, it hasn't lost anything, right?
That's the girlfriend that the janitor in Scrubs seems to have made up, and then when JD checks, actually, there is a lady called Lady.
Yeah, right. And then some stuff happens. And then you skip forward a month, and now you're in London, but like, pretend Devil May Cry London. And, you're introduced to a new character, Nico, who has some moments, but again, the presentation of women in Devil May Cry is just an entire thing that I don't want to get into because it's trash. Like, there's no way around it, really. It could be chic trash and still be trash. And then you go forward in time, then you see the same mission from a couple of different perspectives playing as V and Nero. Then you go back in time, then you go back forward in time, and then you go, obviously you're at a certain point in time, but the character is experiencing flashback. And and also the way it's written in a way where characters are talking at each other, but mostly seem to be talking in almost complete non sequiturs half the time. And the other thing is that Nero, who is the main character in Devil May Cry 4, who his previous issue was you kind of like, why have they replaced Dante with a different Dante? This a smaller Dante,
a blue Dante.
Why is there a blue Dante? And because Devil May Cry 4's issue was you played through it as Nero, and then you played through the entire game backwards as Dante, and then you got to the end. So it was like, okay, well, blue Dante. Nero's thing was previously that he was like, to the extent that personality really matters, it was like he's like slightly more earnest. He's like younger, and he has this, girlfriend that he's in love with and things, and it was a bit of too much of a damsel in distress story, but there was a bit of sort of like earnest heart to Nero, where Dante is the sort of wisecracking Han Solo-ish, sort of too cool for everything guy. And in this, they seem to have given Nero, a complete personality transplant and a haircut. And Nero's very difficult to tell apart from Dante, except the fact that Nero is now weirdly like the Dante from the Ninja Theory Devil May Cry game. Down to the way he dresses and the way he looks. And I don't know if that's deliberate. And everyone in the game is always talking about how useless Nero is. Like it's a running joke that Nero is useless.
That's presumably a comment to the comments about
Divinity
4.
Is it? Like, he's also kind of the hero of it, so I don't know. Like, it's just weird. It's like, it was weird enough that like, it made me doubt myself, because I was like, hang on, did I play a game? Did I miss a game? Because I do know who everyone is, and I don't recognize his character because he's changed so much between games that he might as well be someone different. Also, we've drawn the story in the middle. And combined with this, it's actually quite a slow start. It's only like mission 5 or 6, I think, the game really gets going and starts giving you all this stuff. And actually starts, easing off on the cutscenes a bit and giving you sort of chained encounters. There's also a multiplayer mode where 2 of you are playing the level simultaneously. I don't understand it at all. At all. Sometimes you're asked to rate how stylish your co-op partner was. And I didn't see them. But like...
Is this bringing in strangers into your game? Oh my God.
Sometimes you'll see them.
Do things right, people won't know you've done anything at all.
Exactly. I saw them once. I was in a tube station and V ran past, like, down a different, like, a part of the level I couldn't get to, but clearly doing his own level. And then at the end it was like, did you like this guy? And I was like, yes. The answer,
fine.
The only response is stylish or do not rate.
That's a good review system.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not a dickhead. You can have some points, stranger. It's a strange one. Cause like, I would stress like it's also, I think suffers a bit from, it's surprisingly drab. The characters look amazing. The abilities look amazing. The animation's great, but it's set in, like I say, this sort of, blown up version of, London where everyone's blood's been sucked out by a real big plant. And, it's got that very specific character action game thing of sort of weirdly dreamlike reused geometry. Like, and it's inconsistent area to area. So you get some areas get quite a sort of loving detail pass. And some areas, like there's just like 2 London streets where like apparently every road in London has like 4 million bollards. And it's just fucking bollards everywhere. And it's the same bollard. And it feels like everything starts off as a grey, or a white boxed kind of bit of geometry. And then different parts of the game get more love than others in the journey to becoming game.
Or it's like, like that bollard lover. Don't he? Like a good place.
Yeah, like this one just got whacked with the bollard brush. And also then there's the fundamental Devil May Cry thing, which is, I would miss it if it was gone, but I don't know why it's there, which is, this is every Devil May Cry level. Cutscene that don't make a lot of sense. Then you step out in a cool way onto a street. The camera then takes over control from you and shows you, a route to the right through a ruined building. The thing you do here is not go right, you go left. You kill a red thing and get the red points. Then you go right. Then you go through that doorway, and then a little cutscene shows you a big red force field over the door. And then a new kind of demon crawls out of the ground. He's got a scythe for hands, or scissors for hands, or 2 axes, or he spins. And those are all of the things. And then it crash zooms into this person and it freeze frames and it says like, I don't know, something that's a bit like Latin, but not. And I'm in no place to ever criticize games having things that are a bit like Latin or not, because I like Warhammer. But it's always something like, Aquila Axis or something, and then you fight this enemy, and then they're introduced to the enemy sort of set, and you fight them for the rest of the game. The best example of this, though, is you go into a spooky building where the same bookshelf is on every surface. It's been hit with the bookshelf brush, and a laughing ghost with a pair of scissors flies at you out of the wall.
Oh, I recognise that one from really one of the very earliest ones.
Yeah,
scissor ghost.
Yeah, but I'd forgotten what they were called, and I tried to guess, and I just shouted, "Mr. Scissors!" and then it crashed zoomed and went, "Death Scissors." It's like, yeah, it is, isn't it?
When you hit on a concept like Scissors Ghost, you don't ditch it too soon. You've got to stick that around.
You also don't.
Gold like that doesn't come along every day.
You also don't try and play it up too much. You don't, that one doesn't need a fancy Latin name or anything. Like, you don't gild the Scissors Ghost. Like,
I seem to remember they were serious because they do a shitload of damage.
They do. You have to break,
but
once you break the scissors, they die very quickly.
Well, that was my one thing.
See, I think you had Tom interested for a while there. But then, as soon as, I think it was when you described the way in which all the levels worked, and then I think you lost Tom again.
It sounds like a bit of a production.
It really is. Like, and it has the thing that Tom mentioned on the last pod, which is a mode where all the cutscenes are replaced by footage of the mocap actors doing the cutscenes.
I've seen some of that since.
Which is so dumb, and it's so good.
It's a lot. I watched it because I thought it'd be hilarious and adorable, but like it's way too good to be adorable.
Yeah,
like,
I was hoping for something.
It's really professional.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I agonize over it a bit because I don't want to like dismiss it, because obviously I know that it's a big fandom and people really love this stuff, but it just feels so. It just seems like it feels like it gets almost every rule of storytelling wrong all the time, and everything it does make sense. And then the fact that they're willing to throw in a mode where you get to watch the mocap actors do it instead communicates to me that you're not supposed to take it too seriously.
I think
but
what
you spend so much
realize,
time watching it.
I think the tension that you're getting is like the fact that it feels like everything's meaningful. Like, the treatment of certain characters appears to be a statement about the cultural impact of decisions made in previous games. And then, then there's this sort of the making of aspect of things. And then it feels like it's constantly making comments in and of and out of itself. And I think that's probably why you feel that you can't quite dismiss it, because, but then you kind of start touching it and it all falls to dust.
And it might, like, I kind of almost hope it's something I just don't get. And that's despite having played most of the series. Like, the last image of Devil May Cry 4 is this bizarre sequence where, like, everything's come back to normal, everyone's happy again, and Dante, Trish, and Lady are in Devil May Cry, which is the name of his demon hunting shop, basically. And he gets like a new phone call, and it's like, we're off on another job. And Dante is a completely irredeemable bellend, and always has been. But like, I remember this really vividly because it's such a shit scene, and it's like, it's the game note. This is the note the game ends on, which is, like, this is Devil May Cry 4, I should stress, on Devil May Cry 5. And Trish says something like, "Can I come?" And Dante says, "Yes, but I'm not going to pay you." And then and to be clear, like, Trish and I think it's Lady who says that. Trish and Lady then sort of like walk off after Dante, and it's just like boob vision. That's the only thing the game bothers to show you. They get to the front door of the place, of their own office. And obviously, presumably the mission isn't like immediately outside the office. They're off to hunt a demon or something, and he kicks the door open, and then there's this huge, almost like GeoCities GIF explosion effect behind him, and then he just starts firing his guns in the air, and then the game ends. And like, everyone poses in slow motion, and it's like, this is a team and, a series, that I know is robustly capable of taking the piss out of itself, because Bayonetta does it so well. Like, one of the first images in Bayonetta is of a very unsympathetic character pissing on the creative director's grave. And that is a great, like, there is a sort of like, a kind of cool, like, punkish sensibility to a lot of this stuff. But the problem with Devil May Cry is I think it also really wants you to think that the edgy boys are cool. Yeah. And they're really not at all. And the thing I really liked about Ninja Theory's Devil May Cry, is it was a lot more colorful, but also it had characters that thought Dante was a bit of a dick. So that almost gave it permission to have Dante, who was a bit larger than life and a bit of a twat, because he lives in a world where he's not like worshipped by everyone as literally the coolest man that has ever lived. Like, otherwise it feels a bit like it feels a bit like a sort of Rick Douglas style sort of, like author self-insert kind of thing. It's a weird trip.
It feels, I mean, it sounds like it's almost been made by some of its own fans, where, like, I think sort of Hideki Kamiya, the guy who made, Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry, like, Andy made, Akami and a mad game where sort of you make great big swords out of tiny people and it's really cartoony and I get the sense that sort of Devil May Cry was made with the sensibility of awareness that you can fuck around with styles, and lean into things, and for as long as you as long as you take it seriously at that point, then it's good and it works. And I think that Devil May Cry, obviously, the first game was pretty schlocky and a bit and retrograde even for its time in places as well. But I think that the mistake would be to take that seriously now, like to accept it, that that's what the game is, when the game really is what you were describing at the start, which is this amazing sandbox action game.
Right, and that's and so I appreciate that people love Devil May Cry. They probably hated listening to me try and articulate. I think if it's failings aesthetically or stylistically, or just feel like I don't get it or whatever. What I think landing on it and going back to what I was saying initially about, I sort of went into this maybe unreasonably thinking, maybe it'd be cool to see what they do with Devil May Cry, given the sensibility that's evident in both Monster Hunter World and Resident Evil. I was surprised by I'm barely holding on to my will to keep going with this impenetrable nonsense because I've played literally every other game in the series. I can't, would I recommend it to someone? That was the thing I couldn't, quite land on, because it's stick with it until mission 8 or so, or the kind of the dreaded beat it once and then New Game Plus is amazing. It's I don't know, you know what I mean? In terms of knowing that I was going to come on the pod and talk about it, I don't know if I would say play this over Bayonetta, for example, which I feel also expresses what is great about these games, and I think gives you the best of what these games can do in terms of just visual excess. It's so much more vibrant. I do think it's a bit of a misstep that this is such a grey game, despite being so action packed and lively in terms of movement. It is set in drab London streets and caves and a very, very grey inside of a big demon plant.
We've all been playing something else, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We're playing
Baba Is You.
Baba Is You, unless you is flag.
That is a game you cannot fault for its title being not relevant to its game, because its title is literally in its game and is on almost every level, literally written on screen, and is crucial to the game mechanics, and you interact with it.
Yeah, man. So this is the puzzle game where you push, in addition to pushing objects and things around a level, sort of the rules of the level are also items in the level. So the phrase Baba Is You establishes that the thing you are controlling is a little rabbit creature called Baba.
Yeah, and each word of that is a tile in itself that can be pushed, and it uses sort of default Sokoban rules, which is you can when you move into something you push it, but you can't pull things, and so if you push something against a wall, you're never getting that fucker out. It's stuck on the wall now. And so there will be, in most levels, there are sort of what are effectively immutable rules, and the way they make them immutable, they're still physical objects in the level, but they're just up against the wall, and you can't ever pull them, so they're going to stay there pretty much. And there are obviously, that's the pattern they establish early on, and obviously they eventually play with that, and there can potentially be ways to perhaps in some way modify the rule that's up against the wall. If it says something like, water is defeat, that means if you touch the water, it's game over. But the game, like a lot of these puzzle games, has an undo button that you can just step back one move. So it's very you're always killing yourself or getting into impossible situations and just rewinding a couple of steps just to get back.
It's infinite, by the way. Yeah,
not limited anyway.
Go as far as back as you like.
So if it says water is defeat up against the wall, you're probably never going to be able to pull the word water out from there, or the word is, or the word defeat from there. But you could if you push the word is up against water, like if it's written down the left-hand side of the screen, you could push the word is to the right of the word water, and then you could put the word ghost there. Now it says water is ghost.
I've just figured out a level.
And so you can't change that water
it's
is
that
defeat.
kind of game, ladies and gentlemen.
You can't change that water is defeat, but now you've just said water is ghost.
Son of a bitch!
All water on the level turns into ghosts. This is not a real solution, by the way, so I'm not spoiling anything. Although maybe for Chris.
Apparently it is.
Not you. I was just that was shouting at Baba.
And now you turned all the water into ghosts, and what rules apply to ghosts? Well, that'll be written somewhere else on the level, and maybe you can modify those. And so there are just not, the last one I did, I actually kind of knew this wouldn't solve the level, but I could see a way to say, wall is Baba. Baba is your character. And when you say that, every tile of wall on the level turns into you, and your Baba is you, so you're controlling every wall on the level simultaneously.
Army of Babas. Maybe one of them will be near the exit.
Well, that doesn't solve my problem, but it's cool.
But I like that when you do that, like, you don't lose if one of them loses. It's like they send loads of them to their death.
Yeah. Yeah, you can, sacrificing, if you can find a way to be multiple Babas or be multiple things, you can
just always be multiple Babas.
You can have the rule Baba is you and the rule Kiki is you, which is a different character, and then you're just controlling both at once. And that's just a thing. And then you can, if there's a rule that water is sink, then you could walk Kiki into the water. Kiki will sink, but it will get rid of that tile of water, and now you can cross as Baba.
It's a game where the nature of the puzzle just flicks between level. Like some of them are conceptual puzzles, and some of them are pure soccer band puzzles, and some of them are.
I'm finding there's a type I like and there's a type I don't. Right. And something that it is very similar to games designed by Alan Hazelden. Alan has given us a hard time for sometimes saying that he attributing his game to just him when actually it was a team of people.
Yeah, some people do the sound.
And he has a programmer and an artist, but I can't remember their names, so I'm doing no good. But his games are incredibly tight and incredibly meticulously designed so that everything has meaning and everything is there for a reason, and it's there to teach you a single rule. And that can be kind of claustrophobic. Like, if you don't get the rule, you're just doing nothing. You're just sitting there until, how the fuck do I figure this out? And then it does get into more open-ended stuff later, but his difficulty curve escalates so fast that I'm never able to play the game at that point. Like, by the time there are multiple solutions, I'm already outclassed and I can't play.
Yeah.
And this gets more open-ended faster, but as you say, it changes completely from puzzle to puzzle. So you'll have one puzzle where it's like, I can just change all the fucking rules of how the whole game works on this level, and the thing I'm trying to do is not mega difficult, so you don't have to rearrange everything, but you can. And my favorite one so far was, I won't spoil like any solutions or anything. It was called Where is the Key, I think. And, it was, one where it was pretty simple what you're trying to do. There's a room you got to get into. The flag is in there, and there's a rule that says flag is win. When they really don't want you to fuck with the rule, it'll be literally walled off. So you just kind of, I hope that is shorthand for don't worry about this. You're never going to change it.
But
God help us.
It's going to be, because that's one of the things, like, sort of most games set sort of expectations, like, and you just go, okay, I don't need to take any notice of that bit of the screen, but in this,
that is the fucking, that is the devil's voice in this game is everything. It's so hard to narrow the possibility space, because you think, well, these rules are up against the wall, I can't change those. And then I just played a level where, like, the only way this ever gets done is if I can change one of the rules of the wall. Like, there's the only way. It's so simple. It's just telling you this rule against the wall can be changed. But I'm like, how the fuck? It's against the wall. I can't ever push it out. And I had to Google a solution to that, and I would never have got it in a million years.
But did it kind of, was it like was it like
here's, I won't say what the solution is. I'll just say my pattern of, like, I played it for ages, couldn't understand it, and I thought, this is so mystifying to me that I'm just really curious to find out, even if it spoils the puzzle and I regret it, I'm still so curious to just find out how I'm missing this. And I looked it up, and I read the solution, and I thought, what? And then I went and tried it, Like, I read the solution, like, why would that work? I don't understand how that would solve the problem. Then I went and tried it, and even after I saw it working, I was like, why does that work? And then I'd rewind and I'd do it again. And why does that work? And I'd rewind, and there's 2 different ways you can do it. And I would rewind and do it both different ways. I had to do it like 5 times, every time thinking, that rule doesn't make any sense. I don't know why that result would happen when you do this. And then eventually like, oh, okay, I guess. And then like, that's the answer. So.
Cause there are a few things like the sync rule is just like some aspects of the sync rule make sense, but some of them are just like,
yeah, sync.
I don't really know what this means.
It's really
in the reality of the game,
because they try and boil every like there are objects and states. Because like something like sync, you can't say sync is you, and you can't say sync is Baba, because sync is a state. Baba is an object, so you can say Baba is sync, and you can say Baba is water. You can say an object is an object, and you can say an object is a state, but you can't say a state is a state, and you can't say a state is an object.
And it's fairly good at keeping that, because like the blocks are different, aren't they? If it's a thing that a state can be applied to,
yeah,
it's solid, coloured,
exactly.
and if it's not, it's the letters are coloured. I think that's the way around.
I think the other way around.
Okay, yeah,
the states have a background and the objects don't.
Right.
And so that's a useful shorthand. But then, because it boils everything down to one word, those words can be like not just ambiguous, but straight up misleading. If you see door is open, like that's a thing. If there's the word door and the word is and the word open, and you're trying to get past a door, you might intuitively want to push the word door in front and make it say door is open. Door is open means that if a door ever is pushed into something else that has the adjective shut, the door will destroy itself and the other thing. It doesn't mean the door is open.
I will open that and then myself.
Open means it's an opener. It can open things that are shut. And what that really means is that anything with the adjective shut will be destroyed and will destroy it when it collides with each other. So that's it's not just, one interpretation of what it says. It's kind of the opposite interpretation of what you think it says. And then shut doesn't mean that it's actually a thing that's closed. It means that it will be destroyed by anything that has the adjective open. And then push, and it's obviously like, this is an obstacle to learning the game, but even after you learn it, I just repeatedly read the text on screen and get fooled again, even though I learnt it one time. So, I just spent ages on a thing because I thought that push meant it's a thing that can push. But it doesn't. It means it's a pushable thing. So Baba is push doesn't mean that Baba can,
push.
Yeah.
Can be pushed.
I've already forgotten it. I've already forgotten which round it is. Cause it's just not what you expect every time. And then there's the logic, and I totally appreciate that every single rule, every quirk of every single rule is there because they get some puzzle value out of it later at some point. But Baba, naturally, if there's no other rule specified, you can push things, but you're not solid. Like if you move into something like text, you push it. But if something else is moved into you, it goes into you and overlaps with you. And sometimes that's the solution to the puzzle. And that's so unintuitive to me. Like if I can push the thing, how can it move into me? Aren't you telling me that I'm solid to it? But solidness is like a one-way transaction in this. So like you can be solid to something, but it's not solid to you.
For the relative simplicity of Ghost is scissors.
I tried it out with my son, and I didn't explain it.
Pushing.
Yeah, scissors and ghosts.
Wow, none of that is good.
I tried out Baba as you on my son. Didn't explain anything about it, and he's not interested in puzzle games at all. I just wanted to see how quickly the concept went with him, and it was like. It's such a cool. I mean,
it's a great opening.
We've been kind of grumbling a little bit about kind of all the edgy casedness, and I think that's really important. But like the core concept is so fucking cool. Like, and his face lit up as soon as he sort of like, as he realized like, oh, and like the first few levels are like, the nice thing about them is that they don't feel clever. They don't feel like, right, we're going to really show off just how clever a game this is. It just, sort of, you just sort of jiggle around with a few things and then like, oh shit, that works.
Yeah, my favorite ones are when you have a good amount of power over the rules. Like there's a bunch of different, like linking words and states and objects that you can push around. And then you're almost kind of designing the solution. And I remember one where I'm like, okay, I need to set this up so that when I die, I drop a box, which itself is fragile, and when it dies, spawns a sentient copy of me, which drops a box and a key. And I have to do that with these 7 words. And I think I can arrange them in this format, because then there's a spatial puzzle as well. Like, I know what the semantic thing I want to say is, but with this limited number of words, can I arrange them in like, it's like an acrostic poem, like, has to read this way vertically and this way horizontally.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing I got about, like, that it has a phenomenal intro, just in terms of, like, even knowing what the high concept is, getting that kind of, like, moment of, like, oh man, this is great.
Thank God it has a couple of easy levels as well. Like,
oh yeah.
Compared to Steven's
At
Sausage
least
Roll, which
3.
is just like, fuck
Yeah.
you immediately.
And then you realised that it was being nice to you at the start.
Yeah. Yes. Steven Sausage Roll, fuck you immediately. I think Barbara Hugh says fuck you within about 10 minutes, but not immediately.
It's fast.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck is you. Honestly, like, my arc with it was, like, this is great, I'm dumb, like, really fast. And I got really, really stuck really quickly.
It was definitely sudden for me. I actually did get a good number of hours out of it. But I'm now in a situation where I don't even know if I'm going to go back to it, because I've got multiple
How
different
many levels do you
worlds.
think you've played? Like, are we talking about?
Like 3 or 4 worlds I've completed,
Right,
doing all the secret levels as well. Or except with the one exception, that one I looked up. And then I think I have access to like 3 different worlds, and within those, like, sort of 2 levels in this one, 3 levels in that one, 2 levels in that one, and 100% of them are just, oh God. Like, some of them I've tried for half an hour and I cannot see any way I can do it, and others are just like, there's so many parts to this that I just don't have the energy to
There's a real danger there. So, like, I think I did think that it was really interesting that a lot of puzzle games are presenting the progression through them in this sort of slightly somewhat open-ended way, where you've got choices over the levels that you want to take. Certainly that's certainly in like Sausage Roll, which is very clever about it. And then in Cosmic Express, where sort of you making incremental sort of journeys into the sort of the puzzle kind of things, and you get quite a wide selection of available puzzles fairly quickly. And same as this game, but like for someone who tends to flit somewhat and in the face of any kind of challenge, kind of run away, like I am better when I don't have any other choices. Like I do wonder whether I might stick with the game better if I don't have too many things that start to run away from.
I do find it quite anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
Sort of like,
hanging. Oh God!
Like, I skipped a level in the first cluster of levels because I just couldn't figure it out, and then moved on. And it's good that I can move on, but at the same time, I immediately felt like my timer had started. Like, you know what I mean? Like, on how long left.
I was ill the day they taught long division in primary school, and every math lesson from then on, I'm like, shit, is this, do I not understand this because I don't know long division?
Yeah, right. Because I've been playing it this week, and obviously while also playing, Devil May Cry, and I feel like there's a sort of almost polar experiences. For my frustrations with Devil May Cry, I switch it on, and it just keeps happening to me. Like, I watch a cartoon I don't understand, and then I fight demons in a rad way, and then, whereas Barbara, as you have that experience of like, it's all here right away, and I know it's all solvable, and that's worse. It's like, I'm looking at this, and like I say, it's that feeling of, I'm dumb. I'm dumb. Shh. Back out slowly. Like, Baba will never know.
But I remember, do you remember those puzzles we were doing, we were all collectively doing at the same time? They're really like it was
Jelly is puzzle? Jelly no puzzle?
Yeah, that's it. Jelly no puzzle. Yeah.
The Barbara is you as well.
Yeah, Jelly no puzzle. And that was like you had one puzzle in front of you. And I found that massively
our whole
compelling.
dialogue was just like, level 16 is impossible. It cannot be done. Level 18 though is impossible.
Right.
And then someone else comes in and says, wait, how did you do level 14? Level 14 is impossible.
I think that's the thing. Like, I was actually hoping that we'd have like I played it basically the moment it released on Steam, and I was kind of sad that I didn't really want to Google things. I wanted to ask friends, you know what I mean? But there's that thing of like, because of the branching nature of it, I can be stuck in 5 different places at the same time.
Which do I ask for?
Yeah. I won't say the actual level name, but let's say I was stuck on level 13, and this is the one where I caved, and I Googled like, Baba is you, level 13, and it said, first result was, Baba is you, walkthrough, and the excerpt was like, yada 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 about the island and yada yada, and then, level 13, unfortunately, we cannot find a solution to this. The walkthrough can't find a solution? Okay.
Oh man. Yeah. Also, I want to give a shout out, because like, obviously it's a very, simple game in terms of its presentation, but I love the very subtle change in the audio when you create like an existential crisis. Yes. And I want to give it a shout out for that, because obviously it's really cute. It's really
like, when you just broke the rules beyond all repair.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no coming back from it.
When you aren't anything anymore.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Baba is
and it makes this noise, which is, it's like the sort of like, whoop. And it's like, it would be like, yeah, it's
but then
like
the music cuts out as well, right? You're kind of in this void.
It's like if a complete existential crisis was like a Windows error, this is how it would manifest. Like, bing bong. Like, you're not real. Shit. Yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah. I've got to the point where, hauntingly, that is not necessarily the end of the game, and it hasn't been the solution yet. But when there's another element on the level that's moving, it's moving of its own accord, and potentially it could push a rule into place that would then reincarnate you and make you control something again. So when that happens, it's like, it's not game over and you just kind of watch the thing moving around, but it's like, it's a state of like, no. You think I've got something clever in mind? I don't.
I've just ceased to be. But that's just a very good effect, because, you know, it could just be a full fail state, but it's not. But it is slightly unsettling in a way that it should be, where it's like,
oh god, I've torn the
before
very
you really learn that, like,
something.
you know, when you're pushing the phrase Baba is you around, which you do find yourself doing, and then you end up accidentally like snagging it on something, and the you know, the U
Whoops, the U is gone.
The U falls off. The U falls off, and it just says Baba is, and then it just goes like,
Mostly it's my kind of frustration technique, like, oh Christ, how'd you do this? Right, I'm going to not exist anymore.
Yeah, fine. I'm just going to knock the is out. So it spells Baba, picture of Baba, you, which means nothing.
I do actually quite commonly just like put an object in front of the word is, hoping it's going to like make it, you know, if it's like wall is hot or something, like just put an actual, crate is hot, like put an actual crate in there because I don't have the word crate.
Yeah, right.
Does this work?
Actually, I tested, that was one of the first things I tried to see if that worked, like if the objects themselves were interchangeable with the word, which would be maybe a bridge too far for its complexity, because you can change things dynamically in terms of, you know, if you suddenly say, I don't know, if you say, grass is wall, then all the walls become, all the grasses become walls. That's the way around it goes, right?
Yes.
And then you say wall is rock, then every rock and, you know, grass and wall has become wall. Yeah. You can, oh god, yeah, but not the other way around. Yeah. And nothing remembers what it used to be, so that those things are then gone mechanically. Yeah.
Yeah. If you ever do like X is Y, you have permanently lost all X's forever. You can never get them back.
That's it. Yeah.
Unless you put the rule the other way around, of course, and then you can convert them back. But that's only if you actually have the space to maneuver and push that X in front of or behind it is.
But then they all become that other thing. It's not like, they change back. Yeah.
You're reducing the biodiversity of the culture.
I've killed a lot of crabs. I haven't really. Is it dying to become rock then star?
What is the noun? I guess
we're all going to become rock then star.
What is the adjective?
Didn't Moby once say that?
In the words of Moby,
defeat.
Rocket crab is star.
It's good though.
Crab is defeat.
Yep. Love is defeat was a rule I had on a...
Damn.
Yeah. It was love is defeat and love is love were two of the rules. Yep. If I could have taken a toke, I would have. Make you think.
Baba is new romantic.
The other rule was box has love.
Has? I haven't seen the has.
Yeah, you got to break the box to get the love out.
Damn. Man.
Yep.
Shit.
Shit is deep. Shall we do some questions from questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before we do questions from questions, I think it's time we address the subject of games that we wish would come back in an updated version from the past. And this is because I think it's a subject that we've addressed before on the podcast, but we found, I mean, we took a week off, and this is not to put blame or shame on any individual question asker, but in a quite a substantial inbox of questions that we returned to, not all of which we have time to get to as ever because we have limited time to record, but we were asked that question like more than 3 times in a relatively, like a pool of maybe 15, 20 emails, which is a lot. It is a lot.
There's a self-fulfilling prophecy where if we get a question we've already had a lot of times before, we don't answer it. And so people don't hear that we've answered it. And so they send it in. Like,
effectively, we've never been asked it.
Yeah.
Right. And also, if you're a relatively new listener and you weren't listening to the pod back when we answered this question, then yeah, like I say, this is not an individual people at all. More to say that we're probably never going to answer that question again because I don't know how many more times I can say. I don't even know what I would say anymore. I probably said like,
for me, it's probably Deus Ex.
I think I probably said Terra Nova. I think I probably said Terra Nova back in 2013. That's still my answer. But yeah, so I think, just here's a formal moratorium on games we would bring back from the past and the accompanying question, which developer would get to do it. I'm just going to say it now. Terra Nova Respawn. There you go.
Warcraft 2 Ritual.
Strikers Run.
Sorry, Relic, not Ritual.
Strikers Run.
Yeah.
That sounds like an old person's game.
It does.
Pretty bad as well. It's by,
Is that from the 80s?
It was by, my mind's gone blank. Who doing the big space game? The really big space game?
Roberts.
Chris Roberts done it. It's one of his early games. It's really, 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 really bad. And I'd love to see it strung over 15 different studios. With a budget of $500 million.
You just want to watch the world burn, don't you?
You're a monster. A monster we've given a platform to with which good to go after cloud.
It's ended up being good questions, so keep sending it.
Yeah. Shit, gold every single time. Ask this question over and over again. Just give Alex more chances to laser target other, venerable 40-year-old men of the games industry. I don't know where I was going with that.
It was going to be a jibe against me. That was what it was going to be.
Who were Ritual then? Did they do, I want to say they did Sin, but is that just because of Ritual Sin as a phrase?
I don't know who you mean.
There's a games company called Ritual, right? Did they do Quake expansion packs?
Bell. Maybe, yeah.
That sounds like a very Quake expansion pack.
Because there's Relic, Raven, and Ritual, and I think I get all 3 of them confused at various times.
Okay. So you want them to make something?
Relic. The Dawn of War people.
Yeah.
That's where I want to make Warcraft 2.
Okay.
Not Blizzard for some reason.
Actually, I do like the version of this question. Shit, we're not spending ages talking about this question.
Pissing hell.
This is the thing. We've
So
never
asked us the question, but since you have, here's the amazing answer.
Questions is always such a fucking shambles that we've never successfully had like, this is how things are going to work from now on, kids, without then it backfiring completely. This is why we don't do declarative statements about anything. But I do love the idea that this question can be used to passive aggressively take games away from their actual creators, because it implies, like, because the original developers can't make it, who would make it now? Or because some studios, gone their different ways. But yeah, like, just snatch that out of the hands of Blizzard and give it to someone else. Unless he Command & Conquer but remade by Blizzard.
That would be interesting. Just switch them both. Have Warcraft made by Westwood as well.
Yeah.
That's a question. Developers, you'd have Switch games.
Don't ask us this.
Ask us this if you'd like to hear this week's podcast again.
Yeah. Thank you to everyone who sent in that question, because apparently we got some good material out of it. And sorry.
If you were Nero in Devil May Cry, what right arm would you want?
Oh my god!
He's got all kinds of... I would like... Have you ever seen those, like, wire egg slicers that slice eggs into equal slices? I think that'd be a useful one to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be number 1 arm, it would be number 2, where my first one is used up.
Is there an egg enemy?
No.
Shit.
No, there are several, more than you'd expect kinds of ants.
Maybe some kind of Hoover then?
Big magnifying glass.
Kettle for the hot water. Kettle arm.
Alarm would have multiple uses. That's emergent
This is what
gameplay.
we
You
would
can
have,
use that.
but you asked what we would want rather than what we would use in the apocalyptic scenario posited
Yeah,
in,
true.
in Devil May Cry 5.
I'm guessing the arms Nero already has are better than the egg slicer one for the situation they're in.
I'm trying to think of like things I always wish I knew where they were, and you wouldn't be able to not forget if they were your arm. A pen. Big
Just
pen.
a pen.
Big pen.
Would it
My
have
wife's
like
phone.
a human hand, like, a hand holding the pen, or is it
Yes.
just your arm extends
a
and the
human
pen?
hand holding a pen.
I guess I don't mean human, but like,
And the stupid thing is, it's his right arm, and I'm left-handed.
it's worse than just having a pen. If we
means
just
that you've got
dispense pens, that would be better.
But it means also that you've got only one hand to do everything else in the
A
world.
detachable pen. So I take it off my right, and
Leave it
right
somewhere.
my left.
I watched a guide by a former CIA operative on how to disguise yourself. And they were telling Americans how to behave like a European. And they said, well, in Europe, of course, they keep the right hand, the knife in their right hand and the fork in the left hand. And they, even after they cut their food, they keep the fork in the left hand. Whereas, of course, in America, after you cut the food, you switch your fork to your right hand. What?
Yeah, I know, man.
Is that true?
I know. I
That's
don't
insane.
recognise that at all. But it's
Why are you doing that, Americans?
saying it. I remember that video, and I was also dumbfounded.
I mean, I definitely would have, if I'd tried to describe myself as an American before now, I would have absolutely fucked it. Cause
You are
what are you doing with your left
keeping your
hand?
cutlery in the hands that you use them.
How, they would be in awe. They would be like, how are you doing that? How is your left hand still controlling the fork? Surely only your right hand can pick things up.
It feels very uncouth.
Yeah, with the half-time cutlery switch.
Nero would be especially bad.
So does that mean they cut up everything on the plate and then switch hands and then eat all the pre-cut stuff?
I have seen
These hoodlums.
a friend who I won't name in case it's a sensitive topic, who is American who does that. But I don't think all Americans
Cuts
do
everything up beforehand.
I commented on it at the time. I didn't associate it with their hand switching. I don't know if I noticed the hand switching.
Did you say, what are you doing?
We did discuss it. And they said, well, if I had a replaceable right arm, naturally.
You know, I feel increasingly bad, not just for the people that we, needlessly blamed for sending in a question that we then answered, but for everyone whose questions we're not answering out of consideration for time.
Seemed a pod relevant. Look, I'm taking the opportunity
What doesn't seem relevant, Tom? I'm just
taking the opportunity that listeners don't have, which is they can't ask questions based on what we said in the first half of the podcast because
That's true.
The time delay.
So yeah, we'll be on the really pertinent stuff.
Yeah, just the essentials. The egg slicing your right arm.
Dave writes, Dear Coot and Council, in episode 274, I can read, when asked, which game would you play as an arsehole goose, Chris whimsically suggested Crusader Kings 2. Are members of the pod aware that as of an Easter egg in the latest DLC, Holy Fury, it is already possible to play as a duck?
This is a ridiculous fact at any time, but especially in a DLC called Holy Fury.
No further question, but almost an answer. Is that a kind of duck or goose? I don't understand the pun. It's capitalized.
Is it a make of duck or something?
A-N-S-E, make of duck.
The Answer Corporation has dominated the duck market since 1946.
I know this is, I think, a pun because he's written badumts next to it, but I don't understand.
Okay, no, I didn't know that.
It might be, a type of duck. Write in if you know.
About ducks.
You have answers.
Please persist in producing premium pods, Dave. It's a good correction.
I can't believe that. I mean, I do believe it, but I mean,
Of all the things to
presumably,
get
correct
called
me if
up
I'm wrong, but like the funny thing about your joke, Chris, was that was the least likely game to have
Does this
duck as a
mean,
protagonist.
does this, so is it going to be great when next week, Capcom announces the Egg Slicer Hands DLC?
This is the thing. Like, to be honest, I think the sort of the notion to me was that it would simply be funny that a goose could get in trouble with the Pope. But
A duck
This is a duck getting in trouble with
well.
every monarch in
In
Europe.
Europe. And for good reason.
They all have understandable concerns about the new monarchy of England.
Well,
It's hard to...
Shit, though, they probably don't live that long.
Ducks,
Like, we're talking probably 3 years.
neither did people in the Middle Ages.
more than 3, I think.
You'd have children at the age of 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, which is good going for a
Good
European
going,
monarch.
very good going.
Yeah, exactly.
They were able to outproduce the human monarchs of the time. The lineage was just much faster, so they could adapt to the changing times better than a traditional human monarchy.
Yeah, exactly. And they follow orders. I don't know. They certainly.
They do goose step.
Actually, they don't, do they?
That's duck step, not geese step.
Duck step. What are we talking about?
Next question.
Yeah. Sam writes, Dear Cratey McCrowface, a couple of pods ago, you gave the inaugural shite out to a lucky fella named Sam. I am that self-same Sam. I would like to give a brief reciprocal shite out to my wonderful wife, Jenny. This is really sweet, and so I want to stop laughing because that was what my life is. So I'd like to give a brief reciprocal shout out to my wonderful wife, Jenny. We met 23 years ago working on a production of Romeo and Juliet in Daytona Beach, Florida. She played Juliet. I did not play Romeo. We kissed twice and then went our separate ways. Almost 2 decades later, she walked into the restaurant where I was working. It was love at second sight. Jen is a brilliant performer, an accomplished teacher of drama, and the most wonderful wife a poor schmuck like me could ever dream of. Thanks again for my shite out. Love the pods. That's
lovely.
It's really lovely, and I kind of wish I hadn't spoiled both sides of it by not being able to say a word several weeks ago. But yes, that is lovely. And since this is being sent to the questions email, how would you like these apples? I'm a VR enthusiast, primarily in iRacing. However, sometimes I daydream about taking VR to the next logical step. Virtual Squirrel Simulator. If you just thought there couldn't be a tonal left turn away from the one we've already had. If you were able to virtually inhabit the body of any animal, what would it be and why? Thanks again, guys and gal. Sam.
I'd like to know what it feels like to move as a snake. I have an interesting way of moving, and I want to explore that and embody it. And I won't apologize for this, no matter how much you laugh at my dream.
I think you've killed Alex.
It's a legitimate curiosity. It's about as different as you can get from us, short of flying. Flying is the obvious one. Being a bird would be cool, but...
I know what you mean. This is the thing. You're not wrong. It's just...
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Oh. Good. Well, that's settled then. We can move on.
But the thing is that VR can't necessarily make you feel it, right?
No.
So,
But you would be very low.
and also, all the movement will be just you wriggling about on the floor.
I'm prepared to make that sacrifice.
The thing is, because their heads remain very sort of obviously like steady as the body kind of like undulates behind them, right? So
just nothing happens in the VR.
it'd be just
It's like no clipping.
Yeah, it would be like no clipping, but just along the floor. You're like,
Yeah, it was really hard to control.
yeah.
I'd like to be Tom's boar. Being asked to go into a house
Gore
and make
people.
friends with everyone within.
That seems like our gaming hopes are compatible. I'll be a snake outside telling a boar what to do. Listening to the amusing barks that Ubisoft have come up with.
I'm sure there is a game where you get to be a bird and flap your VR wings. That must
Oh
be
yeah, there's the...
there was that one Elijah Wood made, I think.
What?
Maybe I'm making
Not
something
what I was
up.
thinking of.
That's the most boring dream in the world if it is.
If I had a dream, I think, where Elijah Wood made an eagle simulator for Ubisoft. I don't think I'm making that up.
The one I'm thinking of is
That's
Google.
so specific. It can't be true.
I'm sure he came on stage with Yves Guillemot and announced it.
Oh shit, hold
I
on.
was- Yeah.
Are you talking about the one where you sort of shapeshift into various different animals?
No.
No. Okay.
There's Fugle. That's the
Yeah.
No, not that one.
3D voxely one. I think
Yeah.
that
I'm
was
sure this is
That's
real.
VR.
Yeah.
I'm sure this
Can
is
be
real.
I remember Elijah Wood being on stage. Maybe you just inserted that memory. Maybe you're doing an inception on me. But I thought he was part of Beyond Good and
He
Evil.
was saying a thing that might not be real.
He was writing
Doing
Inception.
He was riding about on Eve Guillemot's shoulders and just shouting about eagles.
How cool it'd be
He
to be a
climbed up
snake.
Eve Guillemot, made a loud eagle sound, and dived into a bale of hay. and tasks and things to do were unlocked all about the stage. There's a very good video I saw on the internet once of a GoPro. Well, it wasn't of a GoPro; it was from a GoPro that had been put on a dog's head. That was then was then made aware that it was a small runaway from the ocean that it very much wanted to jump into. And that was like one of the best things I've ever seen because
That's joyful.
Because not only because just simply it's the movement of a dog joyous. Everyone looks happy when they see a dog. So it's this constant, like, the dog's head goes up towards the faces it's passing and everyone's like, a dog! And just doing, and then jumps into the sea and seems very happy. That's what I would want. I want a VR simulation of just everyone being happy to see me.
What would that be like, Siri?
Good. Next is Robert, who writes, Dear Crate and Crowbar, I was driving home through heavy fog and had to use the sat-nav to find my turning, as I literally couldn't see the other side of the road. This is like using a minimap, my brain thought, shortly before. This is dangerous. Are there any aspects of everyday life, everyday game life, you can think of that are horrifying in the real world? I also have a grudge to invoke against Chris. After last week's episode, I googled Star Wars Big Luke and completely wasted 45 minutes reading wikis. The grudge lasts until I get my evening back, Chris. Keep casting those pods. Robert, still lost in a fog bank. We gave you an evening back last week because we failed to do a podcast. So we're even.
There's your evening.
I think,
Isn't everything in
most-
games
mostly-
fundamentally horrifying?
Yeah, I mean, like, seriously, if I've actually, like, if I pushed a shelf in real life and it knocked Chris's you out and I was just,
Stopped existing.
yeah, exactly, that would be awful.
If you want to see, so the idea of using your sat nav to navigate when you can't see is a central plot point in Bird Box, the Netflix movie that you can watch on Netflix if you have that. And, that's about it. Don't have anything more to say about it. I don't have strong enough feelings, positive or negative, about Bird Box to really, advise you. I broadly liked it, but it has some fucking dumb shit in it.
That's also how I felt about, the one where you can't make sounds.
I'm
Quiet
I'm
Place.
totally
Quiet Place.
mixed up between the
They're very similar.
Right.
I can't wait for someone does the smell version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't make it smell, otherwise the monsters will get you. Oh shit.
Let's not put Alex in charge of the title.
Don't do a smell.
Sandra Bullock. She would do it as well. She's
Part of the, what does that taste like? Quadrilogy.
some of the senses.no.cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, hang on, which one are we missing?
Touch.
Touch, yeah.
Don't feel anything. And there's a million films called like Numb or some variation of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cover yourself in mittens. What was the question? I'm the person who says that.
I think we did it.
It was what aspects of things you do all the time in games are actually really dangerous in real life. So I don't think it was specifically like, game mechanics that are scary in real life so much as like in games you drive a car using the minimap all the time, but in real life, that's how you do get an accident.
Driving into trees with a car. In games, this has been a journey games have gone on because in the early days
Driving
of
into
vehicles,
things to pick them up.
in the early days of vehicles in games, driving into any obstacle of any kind would 100% stop your car immediately and often cause it serious damage. And over the years, the game designers realized, players fucking hate that. And so now in like Far Cry, if the tree is not a fucking oak that's been there 400 years, then you just annihilate it from like, doesn't even slow you down.
Yeah.
Even if you're on a motorbike, it just like cripples in your path and you just blow straight through it.
Running really fast downhill.
That is dangerous in Skyrim.
Running down the stairs.
Actually, yeah.
It's going to take a lot of fall
dangerous
damage
in
going down,
Skyrim,
even quite a gentle slope.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of the most
so-
dangerous things to do in all of the game.
I think it often gives Skyrim a slightly dreamlike feel. You know, Elijah Wood is there.
Keep breaking your legs all the way down the hill.
Yeah. But you know, like, do you ever have that dream where you're running down a hill and you lose control and you just keep falling forever? No, that's just me. Then you turn into an eagle. Cool.
I just dream about being a snake all the time.
But what does it feel like? Let me feel it.
I am numb because you're not allowed to feel anything in this movie.
But snakes taste the air, don't they, in order to...
They do lick the air. I didn't
Yeah.
know why. No, that makes a lot of sense.
They're just going "Bleh" at you. You'll never know what this feels like, Tom. Bleh. Off they go.
Didn't tongue the air at me, sir.
Yeah. What? Monkey writes. Moonkey. Moonkey? Right.
How can this possibly be spelt that is that
Dear,
ambiguous?
Crate and Cruar. Like the skull emblazoned pocket watch in Return of the Obra Dinn, if you could own a pocket watch tuned to an event other than death, what would it be, and what would the symbol on the casing be? For example, you see the scattered remains of an entire uneaten box of chicken wings on the floor. You pull out your pocket watch with a drumstick stamped on it and flip it open. You hear suspenseful strings followed by a bakor and are transported to a scene of a young man coming back from an afternoon at a climbing wall for the first time ever, deciding that he'd worked hard enough to deserve a treat, but his overworked knees buckle and he spills his meal extremely awkwardly. This may or may not have happened to me. And that's from Moonkey.
I almost wish John Roberts was here because it sounds like a scene like he also goes climbing.
So, and notoriously can't control his chicken.
Yeah.
I don't know about the chicken aspect, but
maybe because you
I
use your
could believe
hands
it.
so much, you get very tired hands, and you pick up the chicken wing.
He likes his protein, that's all I'm saying. I do have one, every time a company announces its logo rebranding, I want to know, what was the room like when you came up with this idea? Did anybody object? Because my watch, I think, would have the Oculus logo on the outside, which is just a fucking oval. And they made such a huge deal of this fucking oval. We can't, like, for our oval-shaped device, we've just come up with a new logo. It's taken us several millions of dollars of research, but we thought, maybe just a fucking oval.
Actually, that's a really good idea. Like, I would love to be able to point my pocket watch at any advert in order to see, like, the graphic designer's desktop.
I just realized I guess it would be like...
And it would be a picture of, like, it would be just a Photoshop, like, a Photoshop document icon. And it would just be like final _, final _ final _ final 3
V2
.psd. And that would be the icon on the pocket watch. And then it would, the noise it would make would be the sound any human makes when they load Adobe Bridge by accident.
Oh, for fuck's sake. No, I don't update it.
Oh,
Just
shit.
says that every time. No, I don't update. Fine.
I'd like to see the final email they received from the client before.
Yeah. That'll do. Or something very
Or
passive
like,
aggressive.
we feel like this doesn't emphasize the lime enough.
Could it pop more?
Is there any way we can incorporate the cloud into this? All right. Anything else for any more on this one? Nope. Nope. Henrik, my voice is going. Sorry. Back in a second. Feel better now, thank you.
Good old whiskey.
Henrik writes, "Hello, Mr. Crate and the bars. I have a question that has been nagging me. Why can't you use two mice on the same computer? and by that I mean, why can't you connect another mouse to a computer and get a second cursor? Wouldn't that be great to play like a dual-wield game with pedals for forwards and backwards? Or just a co-op or competitive game with each player controlling a mouse pointer? Imagine putting on a VR headset and using a mouse in each hand to control the VR game. Why isn't this a feature? Yeah. You can have many different controllers connected at the same time without a problem, so why not two mice with two mouse pointers? Thanks for the great podding, Henrik.
That's
Look,
a really
we've
good
all
question.
dreamed of the 2 mice setup, but like Icarus, we cannot afford to fly too close to the sun, lest we lose ourselves completely in the wonders of PC gaming.
Did not Einstein show us what happens if the cursors clash?
Did he?
No. I think he died before mice.
He would have, though. I mean, it would have been the first thing he got to. Wait a minute, guys. This is good so far, but don't you make 2 of them.
This is the great lie of it in some ways. Like, all you're doing when you're holding 2 VR controllers is holding 2 mice.
Yeah.
That is all you're doing.
In the VR field, I definitely feel like that would be kind of obsolete because like like every VR thing already has 2 controllers and they move in 3 dimensions, not just 2, and it's good.
Yeah. But they're basically pointers, right? Like, that is...
Yeah. And I actually would love to be able to use my Vive controller as a cursor just without putting on a fucking headset. Like, I just want to point it at my screen because it's a really nice intuitive thing and I get RSI from using mice and it's not bound to a desk.
Have you thought about using that sensor thing that kind of that can sense your hand
yeah.
shapes?
Oh,
You can
Magic
point.
Leap.
No, it's out. It's out.
I mean, isn't it called Magic Leap?
What did you think he said?
No, but no. The thing that I'm talking about is available now, but
Yeah.
Magic Leap isn't, right?
Oh, I thought Magic Leap was.
I thought
Oh, hang
that's what it
on.
was.
Oh, am I getting confused? Is that the one that still isn't out and it's really expensive?
No, but real
Magic
Tom.
Leap? No, it's quite reasonable, actually.
Yeah. Practical leap.
Maybe it is.
Practical next step, I think. I find.
Small step for man. Magic leap for mankind. Why isn't that their slogan?
Remember the fucking name if that was the case. You might be right, yeah.
Magic
Anyway,
Leap by
did you?
Hardly Noah.
What? Yeah, it's out, I think. Have you?
Have you?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not out. No, I don't know if it is out, but I've never tried on.
No, I think Henry raises a real point. This should just work. You should just be able to.
Yeah.
This is another reason why Windows not .cool. There's no reason this shouldn't work, and no use for it.
Well, think of some OS designers who'd be like, you answered your own question.
Mr. Wendell writes, I moved to a heavily urban area 10 years ago, and a recent trip to the countryside made me super happy. I realized that my gaming taste shifted when I did. I've enjoyed less urban cyberpunk, more wilderness survival. I've dropped grey Fallout for the green Elder Scrolls. This was perhaps an unconscious attempt to get some digital replacement for what was lacking in my real life. What game setting do you prefer? And what does that say about you, or the place that you live? Cheers, Mr. Wendell. P.S. Yes, I do realise that sitting in front of a monitor to get a nature fix is probably the most urban cyberpunking thing gaming gets.
Well, I spend a lot of my life sitting right next to a window.
I like to play games where I'm trapped in a room with no windows at all.
No, I'm saying I like to break them.
I love games set in space. And I live on Earth. In Bath. I suppose, I don't think there's I spend a lot of time playing games set in sort of medieval, fantasy universes. So that's quite like Bath, to be honest. Pretty much. There aren't very many Jane Austen games. Well,
Just Regency Solitaire.
there's There's Regency Solitaire. But yeah, but I mean, it's not an enormous amount.
Hey, are we doing the game combination question? Because I just thought of one.
Sure. What? Hang on, let
Is
me
that
check.
still to come?
Yes.
Okay, good. It's in the
Thanks,
RAM
Tom.
now.
What's going on?
Let's go on to that question.
Okay. Alex, there's nothing you want to reflect on about where you live and why?
No.
Okay. Paul. Lovely Paul. And that sounds weird if you don't know that I know him.
Lovely Paul. Why does he get sound pulled out?
Pulled out.
My dad's name is Paul. How dare you?
Wait, what? What did I say?
Right.
Let's just do over this bit.
It's too late for that, Alex. By this bit, you mean the last 275 episodes. Paul writes, Lord Zinch, the Changer of Ways, inexplicably implores you to combine two popular video games into one, provided you are able to produce a worthy pun. Not only must you name your chosen hybrid, you must extol its virtues. Why is this the best video game ever? What delicious mechanical crossbreed has your warp-addled mind created, and why is it the next big thing? For my crimes, I have chosen Devil May Cry Rally.
That's very good.
It's very good. A fast-paced fighting game in which you play as a plucky Ford Focus, out for revenge against hellborn enemies. Also, Diablo 2 Rock, a loot-based hack and slash set in the Cretaceous period. There's a cerebral bore / lore joke in there somewhere, but I can't find it. Show me what you got, mortals. Fangs are glistening. Paul.
Okay, the one I just thought of was Halo Reach and Sea Solitaire. The Jane Austen Museum in Bath has been taken over by the flood, and you have to space drop in to retake it.
While also playing Solitaire?
Yeah, sure. On the way down, it's a long trip, so you play Solitaire on the way down.
Well, that's extremely good.
That is very good.
I've got nothing.
Yeah, I basically got nothing either. Like, I really hoped, because this is a good question and an excellent pun, and I really hoped that by the time we got back around to it in the order, I would have thought of something. But what happened is an hour of impenetrable nonsense. And now I'm looking around my room for games.
I was looking at some board games. Oh,
I will say, if you're asking us a question that requires a lot of like work and thinking on our part, you can do it, but you have to come up with a really good one yourself, and Paul did that.
yeah.
Indeed. Because, holy shit, I've got nothing at all. Nothing at all. I'm looking over there, there's a bunch of games that are probably going to go in a bin or a charity shop. There's nothing.
Seasons, is anything in that?
Mark writes, quite some time ago, Alice in Wonderland was made into a game in its original warped glory. What children's tale or TV series would you most like to see made into a game? Postman Pat trying to take on the mail, deliver the mail even, in a zombie apocalypse? An OMSI take on Thomas the Tank Engine where you have to take the vehicle's feelings into account? Regards, Mark. I'd like to pitch sort of a kind of witchery or Skyrim-y take on Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
Where like loot items or an empty jar on a balloon.
Yeah, you're just solving minor problems in the woods, you know, with your animal friends, and you're in sort of like slight peril, but not really. That'd be really genuinely quite nice. Also, while we're in the habit of suggesting better protagonists for GTA, Paddington Bear. Much better protagonist than most GTA protagonists.
Urban setting, of course.
Urban setting. Outsider in a new urban environment, exploring it for the first time.
Yeah, sets it up nicely.
Remarkably sort of providential luck, tends to get into scrapes but always gets out of them again. You know what I mean? I think Paddington is the perfect GTA protagonist.
Yeah, because some nice cutscenes going with him going in a bath down some stairs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that out of a crack den or something, you know what I mean?
Oh, a furniture shop. Crack den.
One of the two.
Money, Paddington! Screams of rock star employees.
Gunshots pinging off the balusters.
I was thinking, Children of the Stones, or some of those really weird atmospheric 1970s children's dramas where they were incredibly creepy and they would make for a good Silent Hill kind of games. They're very like wandering around moorlands in the twilight, that kind of game. Oh yeah. Classic children's stuff.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I'm
right,
saying.
yeah.
I won't claim it would be a good game, but if there was a game of Humpty Dumpty, then Nero's egg slicing arm would come in handy.
What is it with you?
It's just a natural use.
You made that up.
Sure, that's why you should have it. It's because in case there's a Humpty Dumpty game, he stars.
So, and he has to murder Humpty Dumpty.
Yes, Humpty Dumpty would be the boss, obviously.
Right, yeah. And all the king's horses and all the king's men.
Minions.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a multiplayer game and the others.
Kind of like
other
Dota.
players
Battle
are
Royale.
the King's Horses. and
100 king's horses. 50 king's horses and 50 king's men.
Humpty Dumpty Royale. Eggs Royale.
Starts with Nero.
Eggs Royale. Oh, beautiful.
Oh boy, that's what you get when you win.
What made out of you? Hang on, no, you're the king's.
You're trying to become Humpty Dumpty? I don't understand where we're going
By
with this.
slicing Humpty Dumpty into like 7 equal slices.
And then you've got to find the slices across all the kingdoms.
Yeah, sure.
You're the game designer here. Yeah, sure.
Have I not done enough? I brought you the egg slicer robo arm, the Humpty Dumpty game.
This is Tom at work at Suspicious Elements. He sort of says, a new game. We want a new game under my name. A new game. And they're sort of like,
Sir.
so what should we make? I don't know. Smash them through the window? Yeah, I don't care.
Smashing through windows yesterday. It's egg slicer now.
Egg slicers now? This is part of my new trilogy.
If you're unsure of what a character's right arm should do, come to me. Otherwise, I don't want to hear it.
Oh boy. And that is the, all of the,
You'll be pleased to note that this is as much as we'll do.
So all the eggs there are to slice tonight.
If you would like to bring about another hour of borderline unlistenable conversations about eggs, you can do so by emailing literally anything to questions@craneandcrowbar.com.
But not that.
I mean, at this point, are we in any position to tell people how not to use their time?
We really have answered the remake question now, though.
Yeah. And thank you to everyone who backs us on Patreon. No, genuinely, you've made this possible.
For better or worse. This is what happens.
We have a lovely Discord community. You find details about our Discord either in the show notes of this episode or on our website. At the top bar, there's a link to the Discord channel and a YouTube channel where we upload these episodes. So you've listened to this now, so there's no point, but it does exist. It's crateandcrowbar.com/ no, it isn't. It's youtube.com/crate and crowbar. If you would like to send us, shit, I've started the outro again for no reason.
Come on, why haven't you sent one yet?
If you'd like to know Tom Francis's home address,
you'll find it listed on his website. No, on archived.
I should stress that even if you do manage to dig that out, that would not be my current address.
Good clarification. If you'd like to find Tom Francis's internet home,
that's pentadac.com.
I guess so.
But also
it's going to be defenestration.cool, isn't it?
Maybe. Windows.not.cool. The problem,
hours.
I think, Windows.not.cool, I might need to own the not.cool domain, right? Isn't that how subdomains work? Like the last bit before the domain extension is the thing you need to own. And I think not.cool probably is taken.
You could do Windows not or one word.cool.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But it would be better.
And you now have to.
Cool with
but that I don't currently have that, so don't go there yet. But I'm Pentadact on Twitter, if that's helpful. That's what we usually ask, right?
Alex, where can you find your edgy teen internet domicile?
Rotational.co.uk.
That's true as well, isn't it?
Genuinely true.
We've all got blogs because it's Hypnospace Outlaw week. It's the 90s still.
I don't have a blog. I've got an Instagram where I put pictures of Warhammer.
During the 1990s, Chris.
I did.
Like Dwarf Fortress.
Wow. What an outro full of callbacks.
Yeah, very good.
Good job, everyone.
Neat.
I suppose that's it, isn't it then?
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Well, so long.
Oh well, as our new sign off. Oh well.
Oh well.
Oh well.
There it is.
Sorry.
That'll do.
Do you guys also feel that we can't stop until we actually do the proper thing?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.